Welcome to the 54th Annual Bankers Award Banquet, presented by the Woodward County Conservation District and the Natural Resources Conservation Service of USDA and the Banks of Woodward.
Woodward County Conservation District board members include Dwayne Moat, Elmer Maddox, Jerry Hunter, Kurt Darnell, Meade Ferguson. District employees include J.T. Winters and Bill Cobalt. NRCS personnel include, from right to left, District Conservationist Stanley Irving, Soil Conservation Technician Kevin Morehart, and Soil Conservationist Ray Hinojosa. Sponsoring banks for tonight's banquet include Bank Central National Association, the First American Bank, Bank 7, Bank of Western Oklahoma, the Central National Bank of Enid, and the Stock Exchange Bank.
This year's Conservation Award winners are Teresa Burrows, Gary Adams, and Mike McElvain. Our first recipient for Outstanding Conservation Practice is T.C. Burrows. T.C., as she likes to be called, is a working mother who has retired from the Air Force as an information management specialist after 22 years and 7 months. She has a BA in geography and a BS in recreation and tourism. Teresa is presently employed by the Grace Living Center. TC has a son, Mason, that she is very proud of. Mason is a junior at Fort Supply High School, and he enjoys riding dirt bikes, which he has been doing since he was 4 years old. TC and Mason love to spend time outdoors, hunting, fishing, and enjoying the wildlife, especially on their family farm east of Woodward. TC is extremely conservation-minded and eagerly seeks technical assistance from the local NRCS technical staff. TC is participating in conservation programs that encourage landowners to improve their land. One of her first conservation practices she implemented was a solar pump and a water well and a new 12-foot tank that provides water for future cattle and increasing wildlife on her land. TC inherited her land from her grandmother, and she still has the original grant from the early 1900s. Another conservation practice TC is undertaking is cedar tree removal, and as many of us know, that in itself is a huge undertaking. She has tried about every type of mechanical removal there is, from a track hoe to a bulldozer to a shredder. She has stated that in her area the track hoe worked the best. It removed the most trees and could get into places where others couldn't. TC has made quite a difference on the cedar removal in the high density cedars that she has on her land. She is looking to do a controlled burn in the near future. TC has wildlife feeders out for deer, quail, and turkey on her property. TC plans to build a pond and a fire ring so her and Mason can camp out more on their own land. Thank you, TC and Mason, for your outstanding conservation work. Our second recipient for outstanding conservation practices is Gary Adams, who lives with his wife south of Woodward, and they have 3 children, Russ, Ronnie, and Rhonda. Gary has wind farms around his farm, and his ranch land borders the southern part of Woodward County. Gary and Kathy's operation is centered around a cow-calf system. They currently call their farm Adams Sunset Ranch. Gary micromanages his farm like most people, like a business. He started with 250 stalkers that no one else wanted and turned them into a nice profit. He stated he is not afraid to sell his cows during a drought to keep expenses low and let his grass rest. Hopefully, he can restock after some of the recent rain. Gary's conservation practices encompass several types, from brush management, water quality, and deferred grazing for his grassland management. His brush management program includes applying spike to control shinry oak in infested areas, and the infestation of cedars had forced him to purchase a skid steer and a tree slicer type cutter to keep up with them on his land. He also prescribes burns with the aid of fire breaks. Gary manages 7 farm ponds for cattle and wildlife habitat, one of which was built in 1954 and is still in great shape to date. He has installed 2 solar-powered water pumps in his wells and has several 22-foot tanks. He also drilled an additional 2 more water wells and is installing 2 more 12-foot tanks to assist in deferring his grazing in his pastures. Gary maintains several diversion terraces to control water, and he uses rotational grazing to cut down on his wind erosion on his land. Gary's grazing plan includes 7 different fenced-in tracts where he rotates every 2 weeks in early spring for greater grass utilization and not to waste any of the winter grass. 2 of the tracts are used to hay to help feed in the winter months. He has installed over 2 miles of cross fencing to help in his rotation with his 60 head of cattle and calves. A big conservation thank you goes out to Gary and his family for continuously maintaining their outstanding stewardship of the land. Our third recipient is Mike McIlvaine and his wife Patsy, who operates as McIlvaine Cattle Company. The McIlvaine Cattle Company operates in the north central part of Woodward County, and along with his son JP and his wife Jackie as partners, Mike is actively improving his pastures with several conservation practices. His livestock watering is done by windmills into tanks, which helps distribute his grazing, and they are scheduled to build another tank to add water to their southern pasture. The water tanks have gyprock aprons with concrete around some for a permanent footing around the tanks. McIlvaine has dug small overflow ponds for wildlife to drink away from the other tanks. Another management idea for their water supply is that they have placed 2-inch PVC pipe in their wells with jet rod and 2-inch leathers, and that way they did away with the well cylinders. JP liked this simple solution so they can do their own well service. Solar-powered cross-fencing is used to defer grazing and rest their pastures. To manage through the 2011 past drought, about half the McIlvaine's normal carrying capacity of Angus cows needed to be sold off. Their fall calving cows and calves have now gained back some of the weight they lost during the drought by grazing cool season grasses, and they are hoping for a normal weather cycle. Mike and JP have spent a considerable amount of time and money on controlling cedar tree infestation on their rented and owned lands, and can now see their cattle coming from a distance, where before the cows were hard to locate for the dense trees. They have used several types of tree cutters, both small and large rotary saws, and the shear type, depending on the size of what trees there. JP and Mike have been stacking their cut cedar trees as they prepare to do a controlled burn to control new seedlings coming up. To assist them in their controlled burns, the McIlvaines plow a fire guard around the perimeter of their pastures. The pastures that they have burned in the past have continued to naturally restore themselves. Because of the burns and limited spraying, the McIlvaines have been able to limit their sagebrush and the thick plum thickets from solid stands to ample cover for quail and wildlife. Besides farming and ranching, Mike is an active board member for the Rural Water District in his area. As a hobby, Mike and JP enjoy calling coyotes in their spare time. Again, we thank you, Mike and Patsy McIlvaine, for your outstanding conservation awareness.
For more information on technical assistance of conservation practices or to apply for cost share programs, visit our offices at 3300 Oklahoma Avenue, Suite 800, or call 256-5320, extension 3. This concludes our video presentation. A special thanks to the sponsors and personnel who took part in creating this event.